And so I think the other thing that I wanted to do was kind of differentiate between post-suicidal growth, the term that I have, and post-traumatic growth. I started off with post-traumatic growth, but then the more that I thought about it, the more I thought that there were some differences there in the suicidal experience that might not match up as well with post-traumatic growth. So there's at least a few things. One is that people don't always see the suicidal crisis as a trauma. There are times where the person goes through a suicidal crisis because of a trauma, and they're trying to escape a traumatic situation, or because they have been through trauma, say post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it's the result of trauma that they feel so terrible that they want to die. So I don't think that the trauma part is always as fitting. The second part is that most of the time for post-traumatic growth, the trauma's done. It's over. And then you're looking back and trying to make sense of the experience that you have already had, so it's past. But we know that for suicide and suicidal crisis, it's not always that way. Sometimes it's recurrent. It could happen to one person in your life and then happen to a different person in your life, or it could happen to yourself multiple times. Sometimes it's more chronic. And so it's a long-lasting period as opposed to a specific crisis event, like let's say a tsunami or a hurricane or something like that. So in that way, it can also be different from a trauma that you have post-traumatic growth from. The last thing I think is sort of like the analogy that I come up with is a tornado. So I lived in Oklahoma for a while, and tornadoes hit. And a lot of times people didn't think that they were going to be in the path of the tornado, but then afterwards, you could kind of look back and study what happened with the tornado and learn what you want to do going forward. So you build a different type of house, you build a underground shelter, you build a safe part of your house that's kind of reinforced. And then with the suicidal experience, it's similar, except it's much more personal and it's much more inside of you. So either you look back and you see what roles you might have had or what things you might have been able to pick up on, or where things were in the past that could now be brought into your present. You could bring that learning about yourself into your present, as opposed to other types of trauma that might have happened to you with some external cause.